For this third portion of our tutorial on Adobe Audition, we're going to actually go through some vocabulary words and also show you just a few tips and tricks along the way that you might run into as you're creating your projects for this class. First off, you should know that Adobe Audition is a very highly respected program, of course, as a part of the Adobe suite. It's one that's very widely professionally used in radio and sound recording, and even in a video production sometimes, because obviously the quality of a video and sound go hand in hand. If you're watching a great video with bad sound, it isn't necessarily worth it. You might turn it off just because that becomes a distraction. So definitely something that people use quite a bit. I wanted to talk through our vocabulary terms as listed on Blackboard. So first off, we'll talk about, once again, inserting audio. Inserting audio can be done in either the waveform view or multi-track view. If you're in the waveform view, you can just simply, remember to just say OK to any default things like that. You can just simply either right-click, I believe. No, maybe not. You can use the menu, File, or Edit, Multi-track, Open. OK, to open. There you go. That's how you do it. In this view, we all learn as we go. So that would be how you would insert audio. That way you just choose your file, select it, there it is. If you're in the multi-track view, inserting audio, remember once again, because we've just opened a new program, say OK to defaults. Would you like to overwrite something? Sure. Inserting audio in here can just be achieved by either right-clicking or double-clicking down to insert a file. Same kind of thing. So inserting audio is that by design. The recording volume is how you're recording. So remember, you select a track, you make it solo. Here's the volume right here. That is your recording volume, how it's going to go in. Once you push record, how loud is your voice showing up? What is your recording volume? And making sure that it's staying within a certain area within the track so it's not too loud, so it doesn't get into the red and way too loud and distorted like we talked about, or that it isn't so quiet that you can't understand it. So that's our recording level as far as terms go. Panning is something that we did not cover before. Let's go ahead and go up to this music track and solo that track, and we can look at panning. What we did before was looked at the volume envelope points. Remember that was where you make a point right here on the yellow line, you make another point on the yellow line, you can drag that second point down all the way to 0, or up if you want the volume to go up. You could also make multiple points if you want. So that's your volume envelope points and what you do with that. Similar to volume envelope points, there are editing points as far as panning. Now we talked about how this top channel is left, the bottom channel is right. So this line right in the middle, it's sort of a bluish grayish line depending on what your computer is displaying. That is a line that allows you to pan. So just like your volume envelope points, you can make a point here, make another point here. Panning refers to the sound going from one side of a channel to the other. So if you drag it up, this top portion of audio is the left track, so it's going to go toward your left speaker. If you drag this down, it's going to go all the way to your right speaker. So you'll hear it kind of drastic here if we play it back. Take a listen. Let's get the cursor back over here. There we go. Okay. We'll switch from speaker to speaker. You may or may not have been able to hear that very well. If you had headphones on, maybe turn back the tutorial a little bit, and that's panning. So going from one side of the channel to the other. So a stereo sound, you might use that when maybe you want a motorcycle sound to go around someone's head, or maybe a siren, you want the illusion of a car driving by, or someone jumping through the woods. Crossfading is a great option for you to be able to blend two files together and make it so that it's not an abrupt change. You want to kind of smooth two things together. So let's go ahead and get rid of the audio here from us talking. Let's put in, insert, the music file. And even though it's the same music file as the other, it'll get our point across. So crossfading is the act of turning one track down at the same rate of speed as turning the other up. Therefore, crossfading, making an X when the two go together. If I click this and drag this up, you will literally see an X. This yellow line, that shows up through Adobe Audition on purpose. If I scroll this over, it's going to scrunch up a little bit because it's getting toward the end of the file. If I overlap them like this, That means that they are cross-faded. Now, this track will go down at that rate. The volume of this track will go up at that rate. So this is how it would sound. Let's get the cursor here. You can click up here if you need the selection tool at any time. There we go. And watch how one fades down, the other fades up. And it went right into almost flawlessly. Sometimes when you're crossfading, you overlap like this. It's a great tool to be able to do that. You can also crossfade by putting tracks in two different places, lining up the best you can. The beat of the both, you can physically see where the beat starts and ends there. Selecting it, kind of lining it up the best you can, and using your envelope points to do the crossfading for you. It's just a little bit more work to do it this way. So you drag it down all the way going up, and you select right up here this volume point right here, and line it up with this volume point right here. And instead of automatically, you can manually do that. And this will also create the crossfading effect if both are in listenable mode. This one's in solo, so the other one is muted. Now you can hear them. So with that case, we might have even wanted to move this up a little bit sooner. Using the selection tool here, if that gets off, we can move that up a little bit more, and then when we click in here to play where we want to play, of course remembering to use the space bar to start playing the track. Maybe they'll fade a little bit better here. Yeah, so the beat's a little bit off, but you kind of get the gist. File type, we talked a little bit about how in this class when we're saving files, we're doing it in an MP3 format. Ideally with sound, if you want high quality sound, you're going to save something in a WAV file, W-A-V. But we want to save it in an MP3 file, similar to what you'll see in iTunes. So it's just .mp3. So when you do save something, make sure you select it, you save it. In this case, we're going to go through that process once again quickly to get this to a single track view, to the waveform view. We go up to the top, which you cannot see here, but on the top of your computer, it'll allow you to let's see, multi-track is what I'm selecting, and then mixing down session to file. I mix down the entire session, it blends together, and now we can go ahead and save as we'd like. Remember, here we go. Here's where I'm talking about the file type, is where we can select right here, the format. We select MP3, and then of course we save where we want to save it to and say OK, and we have our save file. I'm clicking back into multi-track now to go back to where I was. We also want to talk about the difference between the single track and the multi-track view. I think we've covered this a little bit, but just to make sure, multi-track means multiple tracks. Each of these lines of audio are a track, 1, 2, 3. If we even use some of these stretching tools, we can add more tracks in. I know, blowing your mind, pretty crazy. If you need more than 6 tracks, like it says here, I believe, yep, you can insert a track. There we go, track. Add track. So you can add a video track, you can add a new stereo track, so there you have 7 tracks that you can use. The reason these squish down is just for space, but if you select right here, you can actually stretch that out and you can see your volume indicators and everything here and your levels as you're recording in that channel if needed. So that's what we do. I'll undo that through the menu up top. That was your multi-track view, and then you have your single track view, which is referred to in this version of the program as waveform. That's of course only the left channel, only the right channel, just one track all the way across. The session, which will go back to the multi-track view, the session refers to an unsaved multi-track view like this. So there's 1 track, 2 tracks, that's multi, and that is your session. You can have tons of these. I think you can go up to 32 or 64 tracks if you get kind of crazy. So that refers to this session of what you're doing. Think of it as some papers in a big file folder. They're all in one folder, but they're not one paper. At that point, they're multiple papers. If you were to fuse them all together to become one paper or one waveform, and it would be like that. So it's one way to think about it. We spoke on volume envelope points when you're adjusting the volume through this yellow line. Track options as well. When we're in this view, I'm going to expand this just a little bit for the sake of being able to see it. The options that you have in the track are R, S, and M. M for mute, S for solo, and R for record. So just important to pay attention to. If I only want to record in this channel, I need to make sure and solo that, otherwise it will overwrite over this track of music if I don't. And then of course, music samples or beds. This is an example of a music bed. It'd be the industry term in sound editing. The bed is the background music of what you're doing. There's one more thing that I haven't covered in the other tutorials that I want to do quickly before we finish up this tutorial, and that is the ability for you to cut up what you've recorded or what you've inserted. For this task, I'm going to go ahead and delete, highlight and click the delete key to get rid of that track. I'm going to highlight and click the delete key to get rid of that track as well. And I'm going to go ahead and record something in this track very quickly. Let's put it all the way back to the beginning. This is the only track I'm using to record, so I don't need to solo it, but I can if you'd like. You can see my audio right here, and as soon as I push the red record button down here, you'll also see my audio level down here, kind of out of the corner of your eye. Are you ready? Here we go to record. And click. This is COM110, and we are working on a project. We're learning how to do this in just the right way and cut out any time that we make a mistake. So I stop it, and you might think I messed up, but that was on purpose. So now we have a recording of me doing an introduction, messing up a couple times, and coming back with a way to fix what I said. So what I'm going to do here, I want to cut out this audio and push this thing, and this thing together to make one piece. To cut out the audio, remember, we can go up to the razor blade here. We can select it and cut it, and it automatically cuts. We can select here, cut it just by clicking, automatically cuts. And we can select it and push the delete key, and it's gone. All we have to do now is grab this track, move it back, and then all of a sudden, we have a good file that we can use. And it sounds like this. Let's put it back here. Put it back in the selector here so you can move this over. This is COM110, and we are working on a project. We're learning how to do this in just the right way and cut out any time that we make a mistake. So there we cut out the audio that we didn't want. Also, at the end of this, I have all this extra space that was recorded. I might be really picky, and maybe I want to cut out the end of that as well. I can use that razor blade again, make a little chop, select up here, and use the delete key. And now I just have only what I want to be said. I could do the same thing at the very beginning if I got really picky as well. And select here at the top, delete key, and that would be gone. Now, if this was my final project and I wanted it to mix down, I'd go to multi-track, which will be at the top of your screen when you're on your computer, mix down session to new file, and there's my file. If I'm in this view and I realize, oh man, there's a lot of space between here I want to get rid of, it's as simple as selecting what you don't want and pushing the delete key, and it brings it together. Same thing at the front, selecting what I don't want, delete key. At the end, selecting what I don't want, and delete. So now it's one piece. This is COM110, and we are working on a project. We're learning how to do this in just the right way and cut out any time that we make a mistake. So this, as you can see along the top of here, turned out to be 8 seconds long. You can tell how long something is in the multi-track view in the same way. The seconds are counted out here. By stretching this just a little bit, we can see the timing a little bit easier. And for your initial project, what you're going to do this week online actually requires you to record a 30-second recording of you telling some sort of embarrassing story. Isn't that awesome? So right here you can see the 30 and the beginning. So as you're recording, you can actually see how long that's going to be and help cut out whatever's at the end that's longer than 30 to keep you on time. In the meantime, that is all that we have for our tutorials. I look forward to seeing you in class and hearing your stories as you record them and upload them, and get ready to learn in person a little bit more about Adobe Audition and working for your client. Thank you.